Chapter 30 Phantom Steps Beginner Level. His spirit, which was originally 28.1, became 53.1, nearly double of its initial amount. Sanchi's eyes lit up and everything in front of him suddenly became extremely clear. The speed at which the fallen leaves flew was halved. It was not that the falling leaves had slowed down, but that his perception had almost doubled. Under concentration, the entire world seemed to have slowed down. For the first time, he sensed the exact location of the big-headed ghost that was originally difficult to capture. It's time to cut this watermelon. Sanchi's eyes shone with a cold light. The iron ring saber turned red and slashed at an empty area. Swoosh! It was as if the blade had cut off a piece of beef. A string of black hairflow appeared out of thin air. The big-headed ghost screamed under the blade as one of its ears was cut off. It appeared in front of Sanchi, dripping with blood. The teasing expression on its face had turned into anger as it opened its bloody mouth and bit over. Sanchi quickly dodged and turned around to slash it. However, the big-headed ghost knew that his iron ring saber was restraining his movement and dodged him in a flash. Sanchi's expression darkened slightly. As he possessed innate divine strength, his strength doubled. His defense and invincible Vedro also increased greatly. However, his reaction time and speed were not enough. There was still a gap. He thought of the phantom steps he had obtained from the lucky draw and immediately started to learn it. His originally straightforward steps immediately became more twisty. His figure swayed slightly and shadows appeared out of thin air, causing an illusory effect. The big-headed ghost was not able to bite Sanchi. Its teeth cracked as it cried out in anger. Crack, crack, the big-headed ghost chased after Sanchi like a gluttonous snake. However, Sanchi's movement technique was rapidly improving, and he was becoming more and more illusory. Sometimes, the big-headed ghost would bite a shadow and its sharp teeth would make a crisp sound. Under the terrifying power of his comprehension and the pressure of ongoing combat, Sanchi's phantom steps quickly reached the beginner level and approached the intermediate mastery stage. This movement technique can make up for the lack of speed and reaction time. Sanchi was secretly delighted. According to his speculation, his Khanate stats should be at 70 points now. Martial artists specialized in strength or speed, while cultivators were spiritual power. His spirit had just exceeded 50. There was still a gap between him and the Khanate realm, but it was no longer a big gap, so he was able to capture the other party's trajectory. As for his reaction speed, after using phantom steps, he could effectively dodge the attacks. However, it would be difficult for him to hit this monster. Seeing the other party scream in anger, Sanchi added fuel to the fire. You can't bite me, right? Are you angry? Just as he finished provoking, a tongue shot out like a blood-colored snake. F***CK, it has a hidden weapon. Sanchi could not dodge in time, and was strangled by the tongue. The latter flicked his head, and quickly approached. Crack, ding. You have been beheaded by Yin Spirit. Fire Spiritual Power +2. You have absorbed power from death and obtained 1 freedom attribute points. You will be resurrected in 3 seconds. After dying for the 4th time, the reward was reduced to the lowest level, but Sanchi was not in the mood to care about the reward. After reviving, he looked at the big-headed ghost suspiciously. This fellow is indeed much stronger than what I have encountered before. It actually has a binding tool like the tongue. Although my sensing ability has increased 10, my movement technique has increased. It's still not enough. I can only fight it to death. Sanchi thought to himself, even if I'm not afraid of him in terms of strength, he can avoid my physical attacks to a certain extent. If I can't kill him in 1 hit, I should try to wear him out slowly. After all, his greatest advantage was that he could not die. If the other party got injured, the injuries would not disappear and would weaken them. My fire spiritual power is the key. Sanchi tried his best to channel his spiritual power into the iron ring saber. The red blade trembled and began to emit flames, as if it was burning. The scorching aura caused the air to twist and tear through the surrounding darkness. However, this light did not pour out to the surroundings. It was restricted to his body and formed a red ball of fire. Seeing the fire saber in Sanchi's hand, the big-headed ghost's eyes flashed with fear. It dodged Sanchi's attack and turned invisible. Sanchi was already able to capture its position. He changed the trajectory of his saber movement and slashed sideways. With a soft sound, a piece of hair fell. Before it could float away, It was burned by the blade and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Song Shi's neck turned cold. The big-headed ghost's tongue curled around his neck again, restraining him while it accelerated towards him like a spring. He did not care that his head would be bitten off in the next second. He raised the knife and pulled at his tongue. Blood splattered as he forcefully cut off its tongue. At the same time, Song Shi's head was also bitten off. Kill 100 enemies, lose 8,000 times. The ghost head screamed miserably. This time, it did not attempt to eat Song Shi's head. It spat out a large mouthful of blood. Looking even more terrifying, Song Shi died 5 times, but he still revived unscathed. He looked calmly at the big-headed ghost who was vomiting blood. Come on, let's hurt each other. If the big-headed ghost had enough IQ, it would definitely curse him out. You won't even F***king die. Every time you revive, literally nothing happens to you. Who the F***ck will want to fight with you? Unfortunately, it did not have much intelligence and only had the will to kill. Its tongue was cut off, but this stimulated its ferocity and it charged over regardless. Upon facing Song Shi's saber, it first turned into an illusion and dodged, which caused it to only suffer light injuries. Then, it recovered its physical body and bit off Song Shi's head. After Song Shi was revived, he smiled. This ghost was very anxious. It was willing to risk injuries in order to kill him. This ghost is very powerful, but he is lacking in intelligence. He is inferior to the red-dressed female ghosts. Perhaps he sacrificed his wits to obtain strength. Song Shi further figured out the background of this big-headed ghost. If he guessed correctly, it was probably the owner of this big-headed ghost that had ordered it to kill the living people in this manner. If it didn't kill him, it wouldn't leave. But in reality, he had misunderstood. It was not that this big-headed ghost was unafraid. Rather, it was because it did not treat him as an opponent at all but as food. Just like a hunter that has been injured by its prey, who would be willing to retreat. The big-headed ghost was originally formed from obsession. Now that it could not take down this piece of food, it naturally became even more persistent and attacked again. When it turns illusory, my saber that contains fire spiritual power still can hurt it, but the damage is not much. This means that my strength is not strong enough. Song Shi recalled the past few attacks. The best way to attack is when the other party materializes, like when I cut off his tongue just now. After finding a way to deal with it, Song Shi dodged while trying to attack the other party's physical body. Without its tongue, the big-headed ghost could not restrain Song Shi. For a moment, both sides just hit and fought. Neither could do anything to the other. Meanwhile, Song Shi continued to improve. After dodging more than 10 attacks, his body suddenly trembled, leaving behind a flash of shadow. Initial success in phantom steps could leave behind a complete phantom image to confuse the enemy. If it was mastered, there could be up to 3 phantom images. In an instant, the appearance of Song Shi was enough to make it unable to differentiate them. The big-headed ghost was stunned for a moment before biting at one of the phantom images. Damn! It missed him completely. Song Shi appeared beside it and slashed out with both hands on his saber. The big-headed ghost hurriedly turned illusory, but it was a little too slow. With a bloody flash, half of its scalp was cut off by Song Shi. Ah! The big-headed ghost screamed and turned around to bite him. With a crack, Song Shi's saber broke like rotten wood. Shit! Song Shi had taken into account many different consequences, but he did not expect his weapon to be destroyed. This was just an iron ring saber made of ordinary iron. How could it withstand the bite of a wild Khanate monster?